that should work. Okay. Whatever. Hi. This is a new series I'm thinking about starting. It's called Fizz Friday, and you'll see why in a second. I've been thinking about it for a while. I just wanted to practice talking stream of consciousness to a camera, getting my thoughts out there. I found myself, whenever I'm recording like a fake video, like I will repeat the same line over and over again until it sounds natural, and then in the end, like I always end up going with the first take anyway, or whatever. Stuff like that. It could also help me talk to normal people, I think. But yeah, every Friday I'm going to record myself talking about a subject for an hour. I'll spend a week editing it a little bit, then I'll upload it the following Friday. And yes, today's episode is about grief. So I'll introduce the drink, the selection for today. We have Diet Schweppes, and the reason I chose this is because this is a classic staple of my grandfather's refrigerator. This was his go-to soft drink. 0 sugar, obviously. He was looking out for his heart, you know, and his health, so he didn't go for sugary things, and he just liked ginger ale. I was trying to find a smaller model. All I could find was the 2 liter, and I was even looking for an off-brand one because I figured that would be cheaper, but it's hard to find Diet Dr. Ginge around, so the good old Schweppes was the cheapest option. But I think this is the exact kind that my grandfather would typically drink, so there's that. I don't know, I think it's a cute little thing, and every little series needs like a little framing device kind of thing, you know? Ooh. Okay, that's pretty gassy. Ooh, I think this might rank high on the carbonation scale. I actually have no idea yet how I'm going to like critique these, but we shall see. So I'm just gonna try one, and I'll describe the flavor, maybe rate it, and then we'll dive into the subject, which is grief. The layout of it will become more streamlined as I go on. The whole point is by the time I get like 10 episodes in, I want to look back at this one and be like, oh my god, that was horrible, I had no idea what I was doing. By then, and as I keep doing these, I will refine it. Alright, here we go. Diet Dr. Schweppes. That's not bad. That's not bad. My shot wasn't very clean. I think because it's carbonated, like it just was not very smooth. Okay. And I'll be taking more shots throughout this video. Don't even worry. Okay, so what can I say about this? I'll throw up on the screen maybe different categories. I'll just come up with them as we go. Like, I guess flavor profile, you know, it's got the classic artificial ginger sweet taste. I mean, honestly, it's very hard to differentiate it from the sugar version. Let me see. I wouldn't be able to guess right off the jump that this is a diet drink, honestly. Its con is well disguised, really. Yep. Still, like ginger ale, if I'm gonna go for a ginger soda, I'm gonna want to go all the way, like a ginger beer, like something that actually tastes like ginger. Excuse me, ginger. Yeah, this doesn't taste much like ginger. Like, it's clearly 1 drop of ginger in a pool of artificial ginger flavors. But as far as it goes, it's a 6 out of 10. It's a 6 out of 10. In terms of smoothness, you know, ginger ale I feel like is notorious for having that a little bit of a jabby kind of intense carbonation. It's it's like the classic thing of like seltzer, how it tastes like TV static. I think ginger ale has that quality too, because it's just ultra carbonated compared to the competitors, Sprite, Coke, if you will. So smoothness, I would have to give it like a 4. Okay, it's not knocking me out of the park here. The presentation of it is great, 8 out of 10, sure. Like, it has that brownish color that I would come to expect from a ginger type beverage. So yeah, I don't know if there are many other things to talk about with the drink, and I don't want to talk about it that long. Overall, I'm gonna give it a 6.5. It's not the best, but it's decent. And it's what my grandfather would drink, so I have to give it props. Sorry for the abrupt interruption. I ran out of storage. There were many things going wrong. But yeah, I wanted to kind of drink in this fashion because that's a thing, I think, drinking to one's memory. And this is about my grandfather, Papa, he passed away in February, and, he's the first, like, true grief that I've experienced in my life. My grandmother on my mom's side passed away when I was like 5 or 6, and I cried and cried, but it's like when I was at the funeral, it didn't really hit me. I was too young to understand and feel the gravity of like what it means to lose someone, because when you're a kid, maybe it was just because of the way I was raised, but everything kind of felt temporary. I was moving between houses a lot, between my mom's and my dad's, and I remember even when my grandmother died, my mom told me, and I actually started laughing, because I thought she was joking. I started laughing, and she said, "It's not a joke," and I said, "No," and she was like, "It's true," and then I started crying. But I can't exactly remember, but I think I might have been so young that I was just crying because other people were crying and because I felt that it was expected. I don't know, that sounds like almost psychopathic, but I truly don't remember. And my grandparents on my dad's side, which Papa's on my dad's side, for their age, they were spry as can be, especially him, especially Papa. He was skiing until he was like 90, until like 2 years ago, he was skiing, and he would get in free, because everyone above the age of like 80 gets in free to the local ski mountain that we have. Like, he would be at the gym at like 4 a.m. He was crazy, and he was mentally like sharp as a tack, and I mean, his memory wasn't like amazing, but it was kind of just as bad as any old guy's memory, He was witty, and he was just an easygoing old fella. And he always had problems with his heart. In the 90s, he had like a quintuple bypass surgery to unclog his arteries. And that's always been haunting him, I think, in the back of his mind. And yeah, in February, he actually had a procedure scheduled. He was going to go in, and they were going to do some kind of operation that apparently has like a 90% success rate. It was going to just clean things up with his heart and ensure, a bit more longevity. Longevity? I don't know. But he was in the parking lot. My aunt had driven him from his hotel to the hospital, and he was in the passenger seat, and he said, "I slept really well last night." And then he slumped back in his chair. His eyes were just closed like that. And my aunt thought he was joking, because he is kind of a jokey type, She thought that he was pretending to be asleep to go along with the whole comment about sleeping really well. But she kind of laughed and halted for a second and looked, and he wasn't moving, he wasn't answering, he was just still, he was frozen. He was dead, from right then. And I can't even remember the stages of grief. I think denial's the first one. And I experienced that in real time, because I mean, my dad called me, excuse me, he called me, and it was like early in the morning, I want to say 7, and I was up really late the night before, I was at school, and he called me and just plainly sort of said, Papa died, and I just said no, I couldn't believe it, so if denial is the first stage, I think that makes sense. Because at first you just think it's not real. You want to find a way, your mind is searching for all these ways to get out of it, because that's just the natural human tendency, is like, how do I get out of this horrible, horrible thing? There's got to be a way out of it. But then it didn't take long. I mean, it took like 5 seconds until I was like, okay, this is the reality, and it crushed me, I mean, that's when this grand wave started of grief, and it's like a roller coaster for sure. For an hour I was just kind of crying, and then I had to go to sleep. I was like, that'll be the best thing. You just want to not ignore it, but the impact is so harsh that you need to forget it for a bit. And then just for the next few days, I was like walking in a daze, it felt like I was in a ghost town. I was a bit despondent. I was like disconnected from the people around me a bit. I felt like I wasn't able to engage. Things can be gone in the blink of an eye, and that's what, you tell yourself, well, I should be cherishing everyone right now, and hugging everyone, and it's like, for some reason, it's just not the tendency, at least for me. I needed to think about it on my own for a long time. And then when it's really bad, I mean, you feel sick. I really think grief is a nauseating thing. And it's just because you're plunged out of your normal comfort zone into like this bizarre place where things around you are going away, And that's an exaggeration, And as much as you try to rationalize it, because I knew he went very peacefully. It was instant. He didn't even know he was gone. He was awake, and then the next second he was asleep forever, And I would tell myself things like that, but it still, it would make me sick, really, to think about it. So for a while, hold for plane. So for a while, I would get sick, and then I would blink the tears away from my eyes and just try to suppress it for a bit, Sometimes I would let the tears happen, and it feels good to let it out. What it did for me was it made me want to be more of a stand-up citizen or family member. I chose to speak at the funeral. I'm a little nervous with public speaking, but he was the nicest person in the world to me. He was the kindest family member I ever had, and I just felt like I had to pay it back. And so I kind of represented all of his grandchildren and gave a speech. And in that speech, I was like, I hope to be a fraction of the man he was, It's hard because he was from such a different world. He was like in the Navy right after the Korean War. He got married when he was like 22 to my grandmother. Like, he saw a facet of the world that I can never see, and vice versa. He could never understand the times we're in. And actually, the more he tried to understand it, the more it stressed him out, because towards the end of his life, he became totally staunch anti-Trump, and it started to scare him. Like, the direction the world was heading started to scare him. I don't know if that shortened his life or if it kept him around longer, because he was like, I need to see what happens. And yeah, because from what he would describe, life was, at least in Maine, where we live, was more idyllic back when he was like my age. But I don't know if that's true. I think we always romanticize the past, and I think the world was worse back then, for sure. there were less people, but I feel like on a percentage basis, like a higher percentage of people were suffering at the time. Yeah, I don't know, I digress, but I never got to have a drink with him, you know? I never got to level with him as a buddy, you know? Like, I guess that's part of the reason I did these shots. I'll do another round, one for me, one for Papa. While I'm pouring this, I want to mention, you know, the whole diet soda debacle. You know, when I was growing up, my mom, she was staunchly anti-flu shot, you know, anti-non-organic, and anti-diet soda because of the artificial sweeteners, aspartame, sucralose, because she said it was rat poison. But, you know, I don't buy it. I really don't buy it, because I think they probably soak a rat in a vat full of it, and then when the rat develops a little tumor, they're like, see, it can cause rat cancer. But the amount they put in this is like a drop, you know, because it's like so much more powerful than sugar is. So I just have to wonder, what's more detrimental for your health? A drop of quasi rat poison, or like 70 grams of sugar? I don't know. That's all I'm gonna say. But I'll drink to Papa, drink to his health, because I know he can't drink anymore. I'll drink his for him. It's growing on me. Papa's engagement with people is inspirational to me, and I think it's the main reason I said, you know, I hope to be a fraction of the person he was. It's impossible for me to sum up why I find him so inspirational, but what I do know is, if I can get to a point in my life where my last words are, I slept really well last night, then I'll be happy. I guess my other 2 points are, you know, the way the grief a year on has transformed. I feel like some people are more affected by it than others, but I feel like even in my family, we had that real close moment of togetherness because of his passing, and now it's sort of back to the status quo. But I haven't been home for long, so maybe that's not true. But I think that's another unfortunate tendency, is in the face of tragedy, we still tend to revert back to our ways, you know, whether they be a bit distant or whatever it is, you know. Sorry for the dogs. I hope you can still hear my words. Sorry for the children and the dogs. I'm grateful that he lived as long as he did. I mean, there are people in other parts of the world right now that have no one, that they see their own family members killed in front of them, and it's like, you know, this was the best case scenario, you know what I mean? Because I can go into all these what ifs. What if he had made it into the hospital for his procedure? But the fact that he went peacefully before he was full-on geriatric, you know, like, that is a gift. And I think that's what I would want for myself as well. So I kind of want to end this by recommending maybe like a song and a movie. For a movie, I still have the movie Janet Planet on my mind. Annie Baker is the director, and it's just very much a New England story. I think it might be set in Massachusetts, but it might as well be Maine. I just heavily related to the upbringing of this girl, and it's not a story about grief necessarily, but it's this girl experiencing the grief of growing up. Like, towards the end of the movie, she's like realizing that she's gonna grow up and grow away from her mom, you know, and things like this, and it's very sad and moving and everything else. For a song, I think I had one in mind before I recorded this, and now I don't know anymore. Actually, I remember. Hey Jude by the Beatles. I listened to that like 50 times as soon as I found out that he had passed. And it's just, the lyrics are beautiful, you know? I mean, the movement you need is on your shoulder. To me, it means, you know, the movement you need to get over this trouble in your life, it's right there with you. You just need to realize. So it's just sort of a roundabout way of saying that everything's gonna be okay, you know? If I have extra storage, I'll quickly explain more about this series. The idea is, like, even if my hair doesn't look perfect, even if I'm not wearing cool clothing that I would want to show off on a YouTube video, like, I'm just gonna sit down and talk for an hour to the camera. I'm gonna try to, like, figure out a way to reduce my storage on my phone, because that really is an annoying thing. And who knows, maybe in the future I'll use a microphone, I might use a camera, I might improve the production value, but that might go against what I'm trying to do. And the point is, I might edit here and there, just cutting dead space, but I never want to disrupt the flow of the narrative that I'm spinning here, you know? Like, I don't want the editing to get in the way of the point. And yeah, like, I'll do a new drink every week and explain my reason for choosing it, and then, like, have a new method of drinking it. And Fizz Friday, you know, fizz, I feel like fizz is a fun word, and I think it feels like it almost could be a synonym for, like, chit chat, you know? Let's have a bit of a fizz this evening. What do you think, you know? Maybe. And also, I might try to have, like, a new location every time, but we'll see if I hold true to that. I'm not sure. I chose Deering Oaks Park for this one because I was in Portland, and my grandfather kind of grew up in Portland, and, you know, I was like, this is a good park. I'm sure I forgot points that I had conjured in my mind prior to the recording of this, but that's also part of the point. It's like, I don't want to embellish things. I don't even want to write things down. Like, I just want to sit down and say what's on my mind, so that hopefully I can improve my abilities to speak coherently off the dome, speak to a camera, speak to people, to articulate my ideas and my thoughts about subjects. And I think I'm getting there, and I think if I keep doing this, it will improve, which is the point. Hopefully I'll see you then. Cheers.